Hello and greetings, everybody, and welcome back to the World Championship Series. This is the Europe Premier League, and we are past the halfway mark now. Kalaris, in the Premier League, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Been laddering a lot as of late. Been enjoying it a lot.
Good. I've been laddering a lot recently. Still continuing on with my Terran, but hopefully we've been able to move on to Zerg soon enough. But let's talk about the WCS. Before we look at today, which is Group E and crossing the halfway line, moving on to the second half, let's remind ourselves, though, because we've had 8 players that have moved on to the round of 16. 8 players that will play live in the Cologne studios here at ESL for the round of 16. Good race balance so far. Very good race balance. We've got 3-2-3. 3 Protoss, 2 Zerg, 3 Terran. Yeah,
not too bad at all. A little bit different to what we had previously. A lot of Protoss haven't gone through in that, season number 2. But they're not exactly the names you would have expected either moving on through. A lot of fan favorites have already dropped out.
That's right, a lot of fan favorites dropping out, and not the players you would have expected, of course, hence fan favorites. Naniwa, Teal, MVP, and then yesterday just put the icing on the cake, really, when it comes to knocking fan favorites out. Lucifron and Grubby, both players within that group were expected to make their way through, and they didn't. But that's obviously the losers. But the players that have made their way through, let's just highlight the players that we didn't really expect to be in the round of 16. Targa, Showtime, and Starbuck. 3 players that travelled through qualifiers, through Challenger League, into Premier League, and bam, in the round of 16.
It really does show the competitive nature of the European scene. There's such a good wealth of talent here in Europe, and people like Targa, Showtime, and Starbuck working their behinds off to get those spots, and rightfully so. Really well played games.
And of course, those players do join the likes of 4GG, Happy, Duck, Vortex, and of course, what a great set of players. Absolutely fantastic players. Genius on top of that as well. A good set of players making it into the round of 16 so far, so good 8 players. And they continue to fight on for the $100,000. $100,000, which is online here in the WCS Europe Premier League, and 10,000 WCS points. All for share, all for anyone's grabs, if you're good enough at StarCraft.
If you're good enough. Well, and that brings us swiftly on to today.
That's right.
Group E, which consists of some pretty awesome players in itself, as we have Welmu, Slivko, Thorzane, and BlinG here at the very end, looking to battle it out for those 2 round 16 spots.
Yeah, I'd say this group overall isn't one of the strongest groups because it hasn't got the big-name superpower players in it, but it's still a very competitive group of 4 really strong contenders that could move on to the round of 16 and hopefully further if they play well. And of course, starting on the left-hand side, we have the Finnish #1, I'd like to say now, by far the #1 in Finland.
Yeah.
He's been performing super well, and he came from rock bottom. We talked about that a lot last season, playing in Challenger, before that, qualifiers for Challenger, into Premier League, and nobody really thought that Welmu was going to get to where he was last season, and what a performance he gave.
Yeah, certainly so. Actually doing extremely well through the group stages, beating people like Baby Knight, Rhett, beating Stefano, and was the only player to take a series off the champion Duck in the offline portion of it. Dmaga did beat him as well, but it's more the offline portion that was the most important there. So Welmu is a very strong contender, and looking at this group, I would say definitely the favorite.
Definitely one of, well, I'd say the favorite too. I will agree with you. He is the favorite. He showed excellent PvP last season, taking maps away from Rain, from MC, coming close to beating MC as well.
Yeah.
Very, very close. And we'll see how well he can do because he represented Europe. Can he repeat that? Because we haven't really seen that too much in the WCS Europe Premier League, have we?
No.
One player that has repeated the same level time after time after time is Slivko. Round of 32 in Season 1, round of 32 in Season 2, and round of 32 right now, right here. He needs to get past this barrier.
Yeah, he really does. Slivko was one of those very strong Zergs in Wings of Liberty. Arguably before even the Infestor patch came along, we saw him performing Intel Extreme Masters and placed very highly. But his kind of more kind of turtley style hasn't really projected well in Heart of the Swarm.
Yep.
It's because there's just so much more opportunity for people earlier on to pile on that pressure. So that's why he crumbled a little bit. But now, you know, he's slowly getting his bearings in Heart of the Swarm. He keeps coming back into Premier. There's a reason he keeps coming back, because he keeps winning.
He keeps winning.
Yeah.
But I remember the glory days for Slivko, I mean, roughly a year ago in Wings of Liberty, not Heart of the Swarm, top 8. at the IAM Cologne.
Yep.
Top 4 at Singapore, if I've got those two in the right order.
Yes.
And those were some good results for him. A player that, also had some good results roughly a year ago was Thorzane. He won DreamHack Stockholm 2012, but since that time, he's just been on a bit of a downhill. He did, peak up a little bit when it came to DreamHack Winter last year, where he got a top 8 finish, which is great. But since then, just round of 32, maybe a round of 16 if he was lucky, but mostly round of 32 finishes. And then to add on top of that, he's gone back to school now.
Yeah.
I don't really... Thorzane is the only Swedish player left. For Sweden not to be represented in the round of 16 is a little bit weird for me.
Yeah, it certainly would be. We don't even have sort of in the Premier League anymore, with Naniwa already going out. Thorzane is their last hope. And you're right, not having a Swede there would be a little bit strange. But then we have a country that's been, I would say, very, very little represented across WCS Premier thus far.
Across StarCraft altogether. Let's just cut to the chase here.
Most of us are casters. And yeah, it's BlinG, Mr. Summer K coming in here, sitting at 130th place in WCS ranking. And him and DeMuslim are really the only hopes for Britain, as it were. And we're going to see what he brings to the table. He qualified through quite a nice run, having beaten Rhett and Bunny during his qualification process in Challenger. But now he's facing off against a few big dogs.
Well, let's see. No bias here if the UK player can do well. Let's have a look who's playing who and how the bracket works, though. Of course, just to remind you if you didn't know already.
Yeah, our second match will be Slivko versus Thorzane. We'll be starting things with Welmu versus BlinG. So Finland versus Britain. And yeah, as always, dual tournament format here, guys. So winners will play winners to advance on for that first round of 16 spot. And then down in the lower bracket, we have losers playing off against one another to then advance forwards to that final match to determine who gets that second round of 16 spot.
2 slots open to make it to the round of 16. 4 players that are closely knit together here. Which 2 are going to make it out? And that kind of leads us to the first game of the evening here, which is going to be a Protoss mirror, as you mentioned, between Great Britain, God Save the Queen, and of course Finland, which in the likes of Welmu and BlinG here.
I'm a little bit torn in this matchup, actually, now that I look at it. A little bit torn.
Welmu, we mentioned it just briefly. He displayed some excellent, and I'd like to maybe go as far as being definitely top 3 Protoss versus Protoss player in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
He's absolutely phenomenal when it comes to this matchup, and he really showed that last season. He beat Duck, as mentioned. He went through a lot of other Protoss players too, and was very close to being able to beat MC and took a map away from range. Just excellent play from him. But he goes up against a player who's very aggressive, who isn't as well versed in this matchup, but definitely on a good day, and I've seen a good days at BlinG, can beat anybody.
Yeah, he does have those good days, you're right. But as you mentioned, Welmu beating out Duck. He beat Baby Knight as well. And that was really the birth of a lot of the, a lot of people knew about his Protoss versus Protoss prowess, but it was never really shown on a grand scale. And that was the first match that a lot of people were like, whoa, actually, this guy's pretty scary in PvP against Baby Knight. So now, BlinG, he has to deal with Welmu, and that could be difficult if Welmu brings the kind of multitasking that he does in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, and maybe some of you that maybe aren't British as well, it does look a little bit strange to see the Union Jack up on the screen.
It kind of does.
It does seem a little bit strange because we just simply don't see UK players ever. Of course, there's DeMuslim. There's a lot of stuff in America and MLGs mostly, but he doesn't really come into the European scene. The last time that we really had a player making some splashes in Europe was more so Johnny Rico. But Johnny Rico has kind of been and gone and not really doing that much out there in the professional scene when it comes to some high finishes. But BlinG here has made it to Premier League, and he was very happy to make it so. But he is going up against a fantastic player in the likes of Neurosoft Welmu, who's finally got a team shirt.
He does. It's fantastic for him. And now spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner is that man himself, spawning in blue, representing Finland and Neurosoft. He is Welmu. And up to the top left, we have the red Protoss, representing Dignitas and good old Great Britain. He is Dignitas BlinG. Is he still sponsored by StarCraft?
I do not think so.
The cynical Brit.
I do not think so.
Well, BlinG here representing good old Union Jack. But even if I wanted to be biased, I couldn't because of my time in Finland. It was I like Welmu. I like Welmu a lot. He's shown some really cool games and done very well for himself.
Well, if anybody does follow Welmu on on Twitter, you would have seen his injury or what he's having to deal with. He's not in the best condition. He tweeted roughly a week ago as well that he may not even be able to attend DreamHack Bucharest, which was on his hit list to go to. So there's a couple of things that are holding him back today. He tweeted out a picture earlier, and it basically shows a bandage on his left arm, I think it is, with a bunch of injection needles or something in his arm. But you can't really see it, so don't worry if you're scared of needles or something, because it is all bandaged up. But he's not in the best shape to be able to play games. So for me, that makes him, even though he's the favorite on paper, makes him a weaker contender than you'd usually expect him to be here today.
Yeah. Maybe there's, you know, just a little bit of interference there. He mentioned that there wasn't too much, but if you look at the pictures, his arm's basically falling off, guys, is what we're trying to say. But, you know, whilst this build is getting going, we should give a big shout out to our lovely sponsors, Roccat here. And you can actually go over to Twitter if you hashtag Roccat as well as hashtag WCS. Just predict your second place finisher in this match and send it along. And you could win yourself a Cone Pure Optical Mouse. So lovely, lovely prizes and gifts being given out by Roccat, our lovely sponsor.
That's right. Thanks for joining on board, guys. And of course, same as yesterday, just nice and simple. And we'll be talking about that through the rest of the day here, as it was quite an interesting one yesterday.
It was.
So far, though, BlinG is in gas with all 3 probes in his main base. Welmu is not. He's thrown down a second gateway because he didn't have all probes in the gas, which means he does have a bit of a better mineral income here, but will very shortly jump into gas with all 3. From this position, though, BlinG will have much faster tech. It's very simple. He's got more gas income. He did not decide to throw down a second gateway, and he throws down the Stargate immediately.
That pylon, very indicative of that kind of Stargate placement, as he will try and go for a little bit of aggression himself here. So it might be the Oracle opener for him. It would be very likely to see that. But meanwhile, Welmu, what is he going to go for?
He may be aiming towards a 3-gate here. He spent a lot of Chrono Boost, or a little bit of Chrono Boost here into the Cybernetics core. I think it was 2 in a row there I saw, or yeah, 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And with 2 gates, Welmu is definitely a player who likes to get a bit messy. He likes to throw 3 gates down. Now, I know his favorite style is DTs, which he copied from the Korean team very, very well. But with another Chrono Boost going into the Cybernetics core here, we may be seeing just that 3rd gateway, and there it does come down. So he will be putting on a bit of pressure here. You did call it before. We should be seeing an Oracle from BlinG. And with an Oracle from BlinG, the game is shaping up where he's going to have less units on the ground, but if he's able to get into the mineral line and do damage, and on top of that defend at home, he would be in super good position. But the thing is for BlinG is he needs to identify what he's playing against. He needs to build a Void Ray second, because any other unit from the Stargate isn't going to be useful in this regard.
Yeah.
And he doesn't... Oh, he does have a Mothership core, sorry. So, I mean, he will have energy.
At the same time, you know, Welmu kind of knows what his opponent was up to in terms of the expansion, or the attempt at an expansion here. BlinG was trying to go for that very fast, but the Stalker didn't spot that probe going down
BlinG's going to expand.
Yeah.
I think he's in a bit of trouble here right now, because that's not helping him, clearly, because his opponent's got 3 gateways. His Stalker's already caught on the ramp here, and he's going to get time warped.
Oh, he doesn't have a sentry as well, so he's going to get completely up this ramp. He could actually bring a probe along if he wanted to and try and get up there. But
I mean, BlinG's just in trouble. He's going to have to use Photon Overcharge here, which he obviously doesn't want to use it too early. It will push these units back for now. But he needs a Void Ray. Like, a Void Ray is really good in this position. But the Oracle, how much damage can that do on the other side? Because remember, that was the kind of the thing that could still set him up decently.
Yeah, and this will buy him a time with the Photon Overcharge at the back, and it buys the time for the Oracle to do some damage whilst Welmu is held back. The probes are dying off.
One pylon to rule them all.
Uh-oh. Oh, dear me. That's a really bad spot here. He wanted an Immortal out as quickly as he possibly could to deal with this, but now he has not very many units. He's trying to get a Void Ray out.
The Oracle got 14 kills. So if some way this Void Ray can do damage, but the problem is, with the amount of Stalkers that Welmu has, he could just kill the Void Ray.
Yeah.
There's nothing protecting the Void Ray. He will have to use probes if he can't get units out.
And Pylon's trying to going up here again to power all of these buildings, and he does get that going, but the Void Ray does die off with only 1 Stalker dying to it. Not much firepower here as BlinG has to pull all the probes off once again.
Yeah.
And Welmu reinforcing.
He should have probably pulled probes to help with the Void Ray. If they were together as one, maybe it would have been a better of a shot for him. But he's always going to be in a bad position here.
Oh, army supply 14-5 right now. Just trying to get out a few Stalkers where he can. But 6 Stalkers and a Mothership core to deal with this. He's going to kill off a lot of probes himself.
Yeah, and this is obviously not looking very good for BlinG here. There's too many Stalkers, and Welmu should be able to pick up game number 1. I really think that BlinG's build was catered towards a more DT opening style, which we see from Welmu a lot.
GG.
And it didn't work out so well for him here, and Welmu will take map number 1. But I think that what Because remember, if we just look in that game, BlinG didn't scout at all.
No.
Properly. Like, he was just like, I'm going to go Oracle, I'm going to get 3 gateways and a robo behind it. So it seemed to me like he wanted to go Oracle, because if you're going to go DTs, that's a lot of gas that you save around. It's not BlinG, it's not Stalkers. And if he'd got a lot of damage done, and then been able to get out an Observer and defend, and then start to use the 3 gateways and Void Rays, he would have been in good shape. But I think he gambled a little bit on what he was hoping Welmu to do.
Yeah.
And very simply, 3 gateways just trounced what he had, especially when he lost that Stalker with the Time Warp.
And I think you can't take those gambles against Welmu, because Welmu is the kind of guy that will open up aggressively. Yes, he likes his macro games in PvP, but there are a lot of aggressive openers that Welmu does go for. And I feel that the 3 gateway play from Welmu is feeling out his opponent a little bit. You know, it's the build to just kind of do whatever you want with. And yes, you'll poke up there. You'll see he saw the probe trying to go for the expansion before it was even going down the second time. So he knew what his opponent was up to at the very front. And that means, you know, having 400 minerals banked up from that point, you know that they're not really doing too much behind it.
I mean, in Protoss versus Protoss, there's a lot of builds that work and don't work versus other builds and how they react to each other. 3 gateway openings are probably the most... It's one of the most stable builds because it has a lot of green ticks next to your opponent's builds. For example, if you go 3 gateways, you're going to be pretty good against any fast Nexus, 1 gate, because you can pressure it early on and then get your own behind it. You're good versus any 1 gate tech, which we saw from BlinG, whether it be BlinG, DTs, Stargate, or Robo, even though Robo is not likely going to happen. But then it becomes a little bit weaker against certain builds like 2 gateways into tech, because sometimes you have enough to defend with a Mothership Core to have tech, and then to counterattack with the tech that you've had behind 2 gateways. So there are different advantages and disadvantages towards the build. I think if we just weigh them up and we say 1 player went 3 gate, 1 player went 1 gate tech, you're always going to give the advantage to the player who went 3 gateways.
And now we'll go on to game number 2. Derelict Watcher will be our map. These guys combating with one another for colors. They were purple, they were green, they were yellow, they're now red and blue. So now BlinG, a little bit down and out. I think, you know, Welmu, he could go for his DTs here.
Yeah, I think that's what he may go for here. But if BlinG, you know, is thinking all in the same thought process and he tries to do something against it and that doesn't happen, then it's just a quick 2-0. In StarCraft, you should never, ever enter unless you're 100% certain on how your opponent's going to play to try to, you know, counter them.
Yep.
Which is why a lot of StarCraft 2 players, even though we do see a lot of preparation in longer games, some players opt out from that. I've asked a lot of pro players in the past, do you know how he plays and have you studied him? He goes, well, I kind of know his style, but I haven't looked, you know, specifically on builds. And I say, why? And they answer very simply saying, well, if I, you know, try to blind counter and he doesn't go for that, what I've seen him do, then I'm just in a bad position. I'll probably lose the game, which is what game 1 felt a lot like.
Well, we'll see what BlinG has to bring to the table here in game number 2. I would like to see BlinG do well here. I would like to see a game number 3. After game 1 being so short, we've had quite a few short nights here at WCS EU as of late.
Yeah, the last couple actually. That's 2 or 3 nights in a row been quite short.
So I want a longer night, bring you guys more StarCraft action. 3 maps is always nice. But the countdown's finished as we load up into Derelict Watcher. But Welmu, being the PvP master that he is in Europe, could quite easily take this 2-0.
Yeah, I think so. And he just understands this matchup very, very well. He said it's his favorite matchup. He said it's his best matchup. And, well, if map 1 is anything to go by, then it continues to be so.
As we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner, our blue Protoss representing Finland and Neurosoft. It is Welmu. And down to the bottom left-hand corner, our red Protoss representing Dignitas and Great Britain is BlinG.
Typical English name here, BlinG.
Yeah, it's too true.
Typical, right? Yeah.
He would have enjoyed our conversation yesterday, actually, I imagine. Although he's in England all the time, so he gets to sample all of this.
He does live in England. Lives in Cornwall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, unlucky for him, really, to be honest with you. But
I bet he's a chip and gravy nerd.
Oh, that's actually, I like that choice. I like that choice. You know, you tell that to a foreigner and they're like, what? Are you kidding? But it's good, man.
Canada, if I'm not mistaken, I know there's a Canadian in the room.
Is there?
They do chips, gravy, and cheese. Cheese curls.
Curds? Curds.
Curds.
Right.
What's curds?
Cheese curd.
Is that like lemon curd? I don't know, mate. Sorry, but it sounds cheesy. Whatever it is.
I think that could work. Just I don't know what cheese curds are, but with cheese.
I
maybe.
guess it's just like melted cheese in it, or something like that.
Cheesy chips are good. Cheesy chips.
Not bad.
You cheese chip man.
Yeah, not bad. I do like them.
Cheese chips good.
All right, so BlinG is going to open up with 2 gases here at the same time, compared to Welmu, who got 1 and then just 1 a little bit later. Not too much of a difference. Actually, I mean, for the naked eye, it's pretty much the same. There's not too much difference here at all.
Yeah. And, well, we'll see how these guys want to get going. See how many gases they put on each of these. Pylon down to the bottom here for BlinG. It serves multiple purposes. He can hide a little bit of tech down there, or he can actually block off, warp prism harassment that would come in if those zealots are going to get warped in later. So maybe BlinG wants to take this a little bit longer, but it's BlinG. He normally plays very aggressive in this matchup. Across all matchups, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I actually remember BlinG when he used to play a long, long time ago. I even played against him a couple of times. Was very 6, 7, 8 gateway type of player.
Yeah.
That was basically BlinG, and it was for a very, very long time. He's in gas with all 3 again. So with his build, he is going to just 1-gate tech again. I'd be surprised if he tried to expand, because you can, with the same setup he has, get the Sentry and Mothership Core at the same time, and then just fall back on an expansion, very gas-heavy expansion. But it should be just 1-gate tech from what I can see from him here. But Welmu, on the other hand, is exactly the same. 2 gateways, and then depending on where he spends his Chrono Boost, with the first one going into a Sentry, we may see something a little bit different from him here. And he may go 2-gate expansion himself.
He may do, you're right. And BlinG, though, he goes over and he sees that his opponent, this is the already change, the fact that he actually is scouting this game. But not only that, but he sees the 2 gateways as well. Has to leave because he's fearful that a Stalker might come out and kill him. So that puts him in a bit of an odd spot, because Welmu's not doing the same as he did previously.
It looks like Welmu may go for an expansion here. The way that he spent all his Chrono Boost already away from the Cybernetics core. But we'll see. We'll see if he wants to try that. On the other hand, BlinG has decided to go for a Stargate again, probably expecting what we thought that could happen from Welmu, was that he did go along the lines of Twilight Council again, which is his favorite tech choice. And BlinG is just saying, all right, same again. Oracle, 3 gateways. Robo will follow this down quite soon. But Welmu right now is in a position where he's got, nothing really. He must be expanding from this position. Another Sentry's been queued up. It's going to be an expansion, so 2-gate Expo is expected here versus 1-gate Stargate with 3 gateways behind it in total. This is not too bad from BlinG. It's much, much better of a setup than it was previously, but he is playing completely blind and just hoping that it can work out well for him.
Yeah, and, well, Welmu is eventually going to spread himself thin across these 2 bases, then maybe the Oracle can do something here.
But one thing to point out is that Welmu didn't greedy take an expansion, right? He played it very cautious with 2 gateways and already has 2 Stalkers, multiple Sentries, and the Photon Overcharge ready. So I find it difficult for him, BlinG that is, to do damage with the Oracle. Yeah,
it's not going to do too much, because unfortunately for him, the Natural is not going to be populated for quite a while. So, and that Mothership Core is already ready to spot all of this. And the Hallucinated Phoenix sees the lack of a Natural right now.
BlinG's going to go for an attack from this with 3 gateways down, a pylon on the other side of the map. He's not going to expand, I don't think.
Focuses down 1 probe and gets right on out of there. That Oracle has to. But again, Welmu sees everything that's going on from his opponent right now. He didn't see those Stalkers warping in, and he doesn't see the pylon down to the south.
But that's a Photon Overcharge that has been used in the main Nexus and will not help the Natural. So BlinG's going to go for an attack and will most likely expand behind it here. But he's going to try and put some pressure on. But with 3 Sentries with so much energy already, he can just force field and cut this army up in whatever size he wants to.
Yeah, he certainly has the opportunity to do that. He will have 2 force fields on both of those Sentries, with a 5th on the one that already used the Photon Overcharge, the Hallucination. And counter Stalkers are coming in, Zealots are coming in as well here for Welmu, so he feels really comfortable. And he killed the Oracle.
Yeah, this is a great setup from Welmu. He was expecting BlinG to be on the other side of the map to pressure a little bit because his Nexus was so late in this regard, and now he's moved across with 2 Zealots.
They are going to pull back.
Does push it back. He could have walked into the main base, but of course there was a Sentry and Zealot just been warped in. But right now, we do see a commanding lead for Welmu, who went up to 4 gateways just in case there was pressure. Or, no, 3 gateways, sorry. And there's his favored tech structure.
Oh, yeah. He loves that Dark Shrine.
And we'll most likely see a Robo to follow this soon, just for a Warp Prism. He loves his Warp Prism DTs.
Yeah, but at the same time, BlinG also needs to accommodate for this. He's getting Void Rays. He's adding on extra gateways. He needs a Robo himself.
BlinG is just being kind of countered. Everything he does is just wrong, it seems, because the Void Rays have been revealed, and another Void Ray in the production tab, or at least on the Stargate, and 2 more gateways has been revealed as well. So BlinG's gone up to 5 gateways with double Void Rays, so he seems to be aiming towards an attack because the longer the game goes on, the more Archons will come in, which means the weaker Void Rays will be. So it just looks kind of weak from him in this position, and what we'll see from Welmu, I expect, is to DT drop behind this and defend against an attack that comes on the other side of the map.
And there's still no Robo. He's going to have to start an Oracle for some vision or anything to deal with these Dark Templars. So this is going to be really, really hard for BlinG to actually hold off any damage.
Yeah. I mean, right now, Welmu's going to take guesses on the natural and can use the Dark Shrine to build Archons for himself here. I mean, a couple of DTs to harass, a couple of Archons to defend if he... I mean, he's got the gas to do so. And BlinG stopped his pro production, so here comes the attack from the UK man, as well as the DTs that make their way across, and he's in a bunch of trouble. He's, like you said, no detection.
He could just round
A
die.
DT can defend.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like a DT can defend in this position. Welmu just outclassing his opponent.
And he hasn't even seen the blur just yet. Now he knows that it's going on as those DTs do start going to work on these mineral lines. He has no detection whatsoever. One of those pylons is sandwiched in, so he can crank that Oracle out very quickly here with a Chrono Boost. And they will be able to get that out, but will it be in time? I don't think so. 13 workers have already died off here, Apollo.
Yeah, this is not good at all. And a couple of cannons are coming in. 3 DTs to defend against this. Sentries to cut up the army size.
Force fields go down. He's going to shred up quite a few of these units very quickly. The Void Rays are going to get focused down as well. He knows that that is the absolutely pivotal point of this game. If those Void Rays would survive, then maybe they would scramble BlinG back into this game. But now, you know, Welmu just takes a massive lead.
Takes a big, big lead in this game and will continue to do so with a lot of gateways down. He's never going to really, get broken. And 2-0, fast 2-0 here coming out from Welmu.
I think that was the fastest series we've had thus far this season, actually.
That was very dominant, let's just say.
Yeah. So, Welmu doing well. And now he plays against either Slivko or Thorzane in the next round to see who advances on to the round of 16 in first place. And BlinG, he's going to have to battle his way back through another 2 series.
That's right. So he drops down to the losers match, unfortunately, which is a difficult position to come back from. But just like yesterday, if BlinG was to, follow in the footsteps of Starbuck, who dropped into the loser series after a very fast series against Lucifron to start the night off, was able to come through 2 massive favourites. So all is not lost yet for BlinG. But Welmu, as expected, who has a target around his head, of course, because he's a favourite, and he did represent Europe in the Season 2 finals, moves on to the winners match.
With his little injury, he seems to be on point, on form in his best matchup, but now he has to go into either against Terran or against Zerg, where against Zergs we've seen him be very aggressive, and against Terrans he likes to prolong it out a little bit longer. But anyway, guys, that does it for our first series. Join us after the break when we shall have Thorzane and Slivko matching off against one another to see who advances on to the winners match.